right, everybody. Tonight's going to be a fun one. I haven't slept in 2 days. It's going to be great. Almost screaming at gmail.com. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, and YouTube. I'm way too jazzed up for my lack of sleep, but I'm pretty sure the lack of sleep and this glass of rum is going to catch up to me super quick. So the second half of this show might get a little draggy. So, whatever. Deal with it. That's what we do. Almost screaming at gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, go to the website, almostscreaming.com. Check out all the cool stuff I got going on there. Go to your favorite podcast provider, like, friend, share, follow, text us to your friends. Whatever you can do to support the show would really, 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 really help us out. And, I got a couple fights to pick tonight, so I'm jazzed. I'm ready to rock. Or I'll fall asleep right in the middle of the show. Yes, sir. Hey, buddy.
Hey.
How you do?
Happy.
I feel obliged to tell a little background on my lack of sleep story. Max calls me or texts the staff chat last night at like 10:30 and says, "Anybody want to drive down to Atlanta and pick us up from the airport? I got $300 for you," which he didn't pay me. I wasn't planning on getting paid by him anyway. The only volunteer was his daughter, who works for us, and she has a little tiny car. And it was Neil, his wife, and his stepson. Stepson. They got all sorts of messed up in the flights coming back. They missed they missed their chain. Their scheduled one was to get to Atlanta and then fly to Knoxville. Missed that one because their one to Atlanta was running late, and then the only other one they had scheduled was 10:30 that night. And then at like 10 o'clock they canceled it, so they waited all day for it to get canceled on them. So anyway, so 10:30 last night. Hop in the car, drive to the Atlanta airport and back. Yeah. Got home in time for about a 45-minute nap, get the kid to football, and then did Jesse's podcast, did Scott's podcast, took about a 2-hour nap, and here we are. So, I'm too old for this shit. But a fun happening week. There's a good bunch of stuff going on here locally. Some stupid zoning stuff some stupid zoning stuff that I don't really care about, but some stupid zoning stuff that I don't really care about. What I had a good argument with the one and only Ark Wyatt about, because I don't understand it. This goes back to this whole growth thing we keep talking about. Like, I was joking with Scott today. I was like, I should host at the Pirate Tavern. We should host a District 4 for the city council races. We should hold a District 4 for him. That would be our representative. We, as a neighborhood, have worked with Miss Lauren Ryder a bunch. Old North Knox, as a neighborhood association, is very active in that kind of stuff, and maybe we could host it there and have Old North Knox and us. So the business neighborhood and the residential neighborhood that is the greater Happy Hollow area just do a thing and have them all there and talk to them about whatever. And I was like, the only problem is I have to find somebody to host it, because I can't host it. Because if I host it, my only question is going to be, how do you tell people to shut the fuck up about complaining about growth? That's all I want to know, is how do you shut them up so we don't have to listen to these people anymore and their stupid arguments for why X, Y, and Z can't go here or there. It's really annoying. Annoying's the minimum word. So the one that I got in a fight with Eric about, on Ebenezer proper, right next to Bluegrass, I actually called in a favor to get some deets on the topic. The development that is before planning is on Ebenezer, between the vet clinic and Bluegrass Elementary School, which is like on the north side of Bluegrass. There's like 4 houses, which I thought were duplexes, and then there's a weird vet clinic that's stuck in there that's right across the street from that new commercial development that went in front of what's the name of that neighborhood?
Bexhill.
Yeah, so right across.
I thought there was a vet clinic like across the street from Bluegrass.
No, that's a pre-K.
Ah, okay, never mind.
There's a pre-K and an after school that's right there across the street. Yeah. And so Eric's stupid ass argument was that Democrat Shane Jackson was voting for this and arguing that Ebenezer is 5 lanes and can handle the increased traffic, which is fucking true. But half a mile down the road, when you get in front of Foxfire, it drops that turn lane. So it goes to 4 lanes.
Yeah.
Why does it drop that turn lane, you may ask? You want to guess?
No idea.
It's a pretty simple reason, because if you're going southbound on Ebenezer towards North Shore, once you pass that old Weigels, there's a one left turn into Foxfire, which has a turn lane. And then when that turn lane, when you turn left into Foxfire, that turn lane ends moving forward.
Yeah.
Because there's a fucking cliff into a creek on the east side of Ebenezer all the way down until you get to the corner of North Shore. So what do you need a turn lane for? I mean, technically the other direction could use the turn lane to get in and out of
there's
Farmington.
There's one little cutoff that goes to one of those large cylindrical, I guess it's like a water.
Yeah, it's some service access thing down there. Yeah. But that's not, I mean, that's not something you need to have a dedicated fucking
no.
5th lane to traffic on.
Right.
And so his whole argument is like, well, it's an apartment complex, high density, whatever. It's like, doesn't fit the neighborhood. And it's like, let's roll through. Like, I know between Ebenezer and Josh's house on Bluegrass, there's 2 apartment complexes stuck back in there, at least. And then there's a condo complex that's right there. Once you go right after you go under Pillissippi, there's that condo. It's like 6 units, but it's all one building with that one like singular driveway.
There's Bluegrass.
Yeah,
I haven't been on
between Hart Road and Ebenezer on Bluegrass. There's a bunch of stuff squeezed back in there. You know, like you go into, like, yes, you have old school 1960, 1970 something neighborhoods like Farmington, like Pex Hill, like Foxfire or whatever. You know, you have those neighborhoods that are stuck in there that have been there for a while, yes. But there's been every square inch in between every one of those neighborhoods that's been there for 50 years has been filled up with anything and everything they can squeeze in.
Ebenezer's getting a lot busier.
Yeah.
So it used to not be a couple of those like smaller kind of subdivisions that went in on that same side of the road from Bluegrass.
Right, there's one of those that's like just a road.
Yeah.
It's like a road cul-de-sac that's like 7 McMansions that are stacked on top of each other.
Yeah. And
I mean, I don't know, maybe that's a me thing. Maybe it's my hate for McMansions is why I don't think you put a 40-unit apartment complex on what's the equivalent of like 6 properties, or you put 5 McMansions on the same space. I don't know. Maybe I think the 5 McMansions are less attractive. Maybe that's my real rage about this thing is I think these McMansion neighborhoods are really boring. If we're going to just have a block of houses that look exactly identical, all 8 feet off of the property line because that's the minimum they're allowed to be, and squeezed in as tight as they can on top of each other, maybe I find that less attractive than a singular building that holds 5 times as many people. But Ebenezer can absolutely handle the fucking traffic. Absolutely it can. Do I want to deal with the extra traffic on Ebenezer? No. I go through Ebenezer plenty. But
what kind of property tax difference do you think it makes?
No, nothing really.
So I don't think you're getting more people in that apartment complex, so you're potentially bringing in...
Oh, yeah, your value per acre is significantly more, so, I mean...
You get more people potentially spending money.
You have a McMansion on there that's $500,000. You have 5 McMansions on you have 5 properties that include McMansions that are $500,000 each. That's $2.5 million in property.
That apartment complex.
An apartment complex that's 40 units is going to be a $10 or $15 million property. Maybe 50 or more. Maybe way more. Yeah. It'll be it'll be more $1 million property than a set of houses is. But it's the same thing over and over and over again. Especially because Eric is the voice of what would be a Knox County conservative with his 1-800 fucking U-Haul thing, which he did again, which I meant to do in my argument with him. It's like, well, if you don't like more people moving to Knoxville, here's a phone number for you, dick. 1-800 get the fuck out. I mean, U-Haul, whatever the fuck bullshit thing you do all the goddamn time. It drives me crazy. It's like, literally, if you don't like it, get out. That's his stance. Well, if you don't like growth in Knox County, get out. Because you're not stopping it. Period. I'm very animated about this.
So he's for growth, or he's a...
No, I can't remember. Let me pull it up because
just trying to figure out what his stance is supposed to be.
Yeah, well, one, like I sent you his survey, which is one of the most phenomenal survey questions ever on the topic that he went with his consulting company and went out to educate people with this this wonderful survey he created. But where is it? I'm trying to. So much argument. Crap, I don't remember what it is. I mean, basically, his thing is the neighbors don't want it. And I said, okay, well, give me, in my back and forth, is like, you know what? I'm going about this wrong. Eric, why don't you give me the conservative value argument for property rights? To which, I got this kind of bullshit. It's like, well, if you build a big house next to my house, then that affects me. It's like, you don't own the property. And then he gave me the bullshit of, well, if we didn't have any zoning rules or whatever, you'd have strip clubs next to churches. So? So what? I don't care.
Who got there first?
Right. But I mean, just still, who cares? Why? We have a bar and a liquor store every 15 feet that has to matter how close they are to churches and funeral homes and stuff like that. But it's like my church that I'm technically a member of that I don't really go to, that my parents are members of and stuff, there are 3 fucking donut shops within a quarter mile of that place. That is more, what is the number one killer of Americans? Heart disease?
Heart disease, yeah.
So the 3 donut shops within a quarter mile of my church is more damaging to the congregation of that church than a strip club being on the corner of North Shore and Kingston Pike.
They don't compete with hours.
Do it?
I said they're on off hours. They're on opposite hours.
What, the strip? Yeah. They don't. They I could see the church complaining maybe if strip club patrons were using their parking lot. Sure.
Yeah.
That's but it's the church's property that they don't pay taxes on like the rest of us do. But whatever. I remember saying because that's such a shit argument to me. Yeah, I don't care. Put a liquor store next to a school. I don't care. This is stupid. We do have liquor stores next to school. Middlebrook liquor store is 100. I think it's right at the state minimum of distance from middle school, from Bearden Middle. Is it? But I mean, you've got Warehouse Liquors right here in Rocky Hill. That's a quarter mile from Rocky Hill Elementary School. Yeah. It's a stupid ass argument. Down on Sevier Avenue, you have an elementary school that is diagonally across the next intersection from a brew pub, 2 brew pubs and a restaurant that serves liquor. And I tried to put a vape shop in there, but the landlord didn't want me there. I was going to be the problem to the elementary school kids, not the family friendly bars, the 2 family friendly bars that are there.
Yeah, used to be a bar up in the Sunsphere right by the L&N.
Yeah, but it's just what are we talking about? Who cares? It says match existing. This is a word they throw around in planning commission meetings and stuff like that. It's that matches the existing feel. It's if that's the argument again, that's another one. If that's okay, if new development has to match the existing feel, then none of this exists because all of this was a fucking farm.
So I say maybe that's why they're building so many subdivisions. They're well, now we have to build more subdivisions because that's what's already here. Well,
right. Well, or the farm that we just bought is so far away from everything else that it doesn't have to worry about matching anything because it's so far away because the farm's 100 acres. It's stupid. It's dumb. I met with Lauren earlier last week. Was talking to her about some different stuff, and it's I flat told her, I was I hate the growth, but I'm not going to sit here and try to talk you guys into some policy to stop it. I'm going to as a business person, I love the growth. I think it's great, but as a resident, I don't like it. It's too busy. It takes me too long to get from A to B, and it's really fucking annoying, and it's getting tiresome to me.
Yeah.
The solution to that is, you're right, Eric. 1-800, I'm going to U-Haul my ass out of here sooner than later. Because that's the correct answer. Because I don't want to live in a 1 million person population municipality. I don't want to live in a town that borders 1 million people. And we're fast approaching that. Not really. We got forever before we get there, but we're moving that direction quickly. We've surpassed 500,000 in what I consider Knoxville Metro. We passed that a year or so ago, and we're continuing to grow at that 10,000, 15,000 a year or something like that. It's a lot of fucking people.
Yeah.
And it's so either shut the fuck up, quit bitching about new development, and get on board with the infrastructure to chase it down to make sure that that those of us that do stay here don't have to add 15 minutes of commute time because 100 more people live nearby. Spend some energy and effort on the things that make a more populated place more livable. Or don't do the actual solution that I believe is the only solution we have, and this would be another one of my arguments. Eric, if you don't want the growth, then you need to be advocating for policies where they're taxing more, which is not a Republican value, and where they're absolutely obliterating anything positive about any of the county city services, which is a Republican thing. They're happy with shitty services because their argument is you don't pay for them, you don't get them. We don't ask you to pay for them in taxes. we don't give you good city services. So we're going to ask for a bunch of tax money. We're going to give you shitty services. That's the only way I can think of that we make Knoxville not attractive.
You don't think Republicans ever complain about potholes and whatnot?
I mean, no. The only city service they care about is cops. Yeah.
No.
I mean, yes, like they're going to, like everybody complains about potholes. Everybody complains about sidewalks and speed bumps and all that kind of stuff.
As far as adding a new park or something like that, they're
I don't know.
likely.
I don't fucking know. I don't know what Republicans believe in anyway. I mean, I don't like. I mean, if you want to get down to it, but like, I wish I could find it in here because that was the right question I asked when I was arguing with Eric about it was like, what is the conservative argument for zoning telling me what I can do with my piece of land? Because that's what I like. I mean, that's the correct way to ask the question, and that was my error in not starting that way. And so I can't find it. I can find my response to his 3-point thing, matching the existing, the stretch.
No, you didn't catch it.
Right, the access isn't an issue. And yes, I'm okay with strip clubs and liquor stores next to schools and churches. And because I have a philosophy and I'm consistent in it. It's your piece of land. You do what you want with it. If I wanted to build a 30-story skyscraper on my land, I should be able to. And more importantly, if it falls over on any of my neighbors or anything, I should be sued into oblivion and go to jail. Like, I shouldn't have any protections against shoddy workmanship. I should be absolutely 1,000% liable for anything that happens on the property that I build on. Or that is caused by the property. Huh?
That's why you put it in an LLC.
I mean, I agree, but that's a problem to me. I don't think, like, I use an LLC, don't get me wrong, but, like, I think the idea that you can hide behind stuff in company structuring to get away from liability from an act, like, part of it's because we're so goddamn libelous about everything anyway, which is why I don't feel bad about having LLCs. Right. But, yeah, realistically, like, if it's something that's an at fault, like a real at fault, you should be held liable for it. And, like, this guy that shot up our front of our building. He doesn't have it, but he owes me $10,000 fucking dollars. It's going to cost me $10,000 to put new windows and shit in.
Right.
Why do I have to pay out of my pocket for some stupid criminal decision you made? I'm actually going through the process of today's DA's office to try to add felony destruction of property to his list of charges.
Yeah. I would.
I mean, I'm trying to figure it out, but it's like, then there's this weird little line I'm trying to figure out who is technically responsible for the window, because in some cases the landlord is, in some cases the tenants are, and where this one lies, because it's usually not generally spelled out. If the building gets shot up, whose fault is it? That's not usually in a lease agreement.
Right.
And so, anyway, I don't know. I don't get it. I don't understand the argument. Like, especially out there. Like, I mean, yes, North Shore sucks. North Shore sucks. But Ebenezer is extremely accessible.
And there's more places to put stuff on North Shore. I'm surprised they haven't really tried
yet. I mean, they are. They're sneaking stuff on. There's 3 like 5-house little cul-de-sac neighborhoods that have popped off of North Shore. One right across from Wallace.
Yeah.
There's one right here just past the commercial part at Morel. I'm curious if they'll try to do something on that like marshland and see if they can't dry that out and build something there.
I don't think they would, because I think that's like overflow when like the other lake
floods like it likes to do.
Yeah.
And I mean, like that one, like that's an argument I can get behind. Like, okay, like especially when you get off North Shore on the south side, there's some stuff back in there. There was a developer that was trying to put like 120 unit, like mixed residential. So it was going to be like a small, like a 20 unit apartment complex, and then like 70 condos, and then a handful of actual single family homes on this big development he was trying to put together. And it's going to be put like 120 units back deep into North Shore, right there where the S-turn is. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like it was going to be like where that S-turn is, where that road is that comes off of the one side of the S, like back in there. And it's like North Shore can't handle that traffic. I can see that argument. That is a reasonable argument, because that has the infrastructure is not there. And as of right now, there is at best whispered talks about maybe doing something to expand North Shore in the future. Like North Shore, with the amount of traffic that North Shore is moving, North Shore should at least at minimum, be 2 lanes both ways, all the way from Pillissippi to Kingston Pike. But at Westland, in front of Lakeshore, it drops from 4 lanes to 2 lanes, and it's 2 lanes all the way out till you get to Ebenezer. It should be 4 lanes all the way through there, intermittently having either a full 5th turn, double turn lane, or having specific, like, this is a left turn into this neighborhood, this is a left turn into that neighborhood turn lane. Just here and there, like, as needed, as available with space.
I think just putting in a 3rd turn lane would help it a lot.
That'd be a good start. But to me, if you're gonna spend the energy and effort and turmoil that it was going to be, I mean, how many miles of North Shore that project would be? Right. If you're going to put that effort and energy in, you might as well go big. And because it's still, I would think, I'm sure some traffic engineer knows has specifics, like how many residents equals how many cars equals how many miles of roads driven a day, kind of shit. Like, I'm sure that's some equation.
You see the way they'll randomly put those little black wires that are doing car counters.
Yeah. But I'm saying, like, I'm sure city or county roads and engineering's, like, they have a method for how many residences, what types of businesses are in a neighborhood equals this much traffic needs this much laneage. I'm sure there's a formula for that.
Yeah. And
I'm sure North Shore is already at 2 lanes both way minimum in that formula, if not 2 lanes both ways with a suicide lane with intermittent right turn lanes that come off of to make it 6 and 7 lanes wide in certain spots. I mean, hell, like right there at Wallace. Like, you're right. Like, if we at least just had a middle turn lane, that would make.
So that's usually what a lot of the slowdown is on North Shore. Is people just trying to turn, in the hours from like 3 to 6:30 or whatever.
Yeah, this one of his friends lives right over there by the firehouse.
Yeah.
There's like I for some reason think in my head I can turn left out of here, and I sit there for a while, and then I just turn right, go down to Wallace, and go up another bridge to get back here.
Yeah.
Like, I do it all the time. Like, every time I do it, I sit there, I got my left turn signal on, and I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, I mean, that S-turn there at Tools Bend's a dangerous intersection anyway. Like, smart people I'll see, if I'm, like, driving behind them, like, put their turn signal on to, like, turn onto it, like, a mile in advance.
Yeah, because you can't see.
I'm getting ready to turn right here.
Be prepared. So, anyway, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, it's like, going back to my original joke, if I were to go to city council, host a city council forum, the question is, how are we going to manage growth? Not what are we doing about growth? And then the follow-up question is, how do you shut these NIMBYs up and tell them to suck it? Because you don't have, like, that's not how property rights work to me. This is my property, and I can do with it what I want. And if that is my stance, then the inverse is true. That is your property. You can do what you want.
You're welcome to come and say your voice to the committees. If you think you have a valid point.
Right. Like I said, I think there's argument to be made when it's stuff when you get down to the brass tacks of how it affects essential services. Does the infrastructure have the bandwidth to handle the new traffic? Or, I mean, hell, does rural metro have the ability to, or the city fire department have the ability to service those if needed? Do we have enough ambulances? But that's a greater growth question than that one. Do the nearby schools have capacity for these kids? That's a valid question to have. Right. But again, from a Republican, go fuck yourself. Because if you want to talk about school capacity, we're going to have more, right? More private schools are about to show the fuck up, and we're going to voucher our kids into private schools. Who gives a shit how many kids are at Bluegrass right now? Because every person that moves in here is going to get a voucher and send their kid somewhere else. Like, it's a consistency issue to me. It's one is there's no philosophy. There's no philosophy to Republicans or Democrats at this point. But on this particular one, there's no philosophy. It's just pick and choose what the fuck I feel like is important today, and I'm going to make this a party issue. Because apparently Trump doesn't like. There's a invasion of the suburbs. From Trump, like he said this in some.
Who's invading the suburbs?
Well, it's Democratic municipalities are changing zoning, allowing these low income housing projects to come. It's like that's a whole fucking separate thing. That's not accurate to the way the real world works. But like through his whole rant on it, the only thing he inferred is that it would be a low income or subsidized housing going into a neighborhood, destroying property values. Which again, statistically, that doesn't show that that's true at all. Right. Like if you do a huge thing. if you do a giant fucking housing project in the middle of like a ritzy neighborhood, yeah, it fucks up with the ritzy neighborhood values. But that's not how anybody does it. You put, you might squeeze a 60-unit apartment building in that's got some rent controls or some assisted rents or something like that for low-income housing or whatever. Generally, those don't have a negative effect on the neighbors.
Yeah.
Like, or at least it's not clear that there's a positive or a negative to the general neighborhood or the home values around it. There doesn't seem to be any real effect.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people live in those are people over 65 that are trying to retire and can barely afford.
That's some of them, and some of them are poor families that, it's the assumption that poor people are criminals. Well, there's part of that that's somewhat true because poor people have needs just like rich people have needs. It's just poor people can't afford their needs, and so they go to desperate ways to get some of their needs filled. Yeah. Some of it's glamour, fucking whatever. We can go back to this, get to the Tipper Gore argument and get rid of fucking hip hop because it's turning our kids into gangsters.
I think it was Trevor Noah's podcast I was listening to where he was talking to Jon Stewart. I think they were talking about like shoplifting going up in New York City or something, which it was actually trending down. I don't know. It was some stat that was getting blown out of proportion. But it's like when you got that many people living, and in a compact place and you've got a store on like every corner, like, your opportunity goes up of somebody easily just like running and grabbing something.
Right. I mean, that's why it's important. Like all these stats are a per capita. You got to do a per capita or per thousand, or you've got to have it as it's got to be a percentage of the population. Like,
right.
Like murder rates matter. And like a couple of years ago, per capita, Knoxville had more murders than Chicago did.
Right.
But Chicago's a city of what, 6 million, something.
Maybe.
So it's a significant,
it's a major city. Yeah.
Right. And so they had a couple hundred murders one year, but that was like a tiny percentage per capita. It was one per like 10,000 people.
Yeah, same with New York. Everyone always assumes that it's a high like murder place, and it's like actually no, their crime stats are better.
I mean, it is by count, but by number of people, it's not. It's not a fair like
per capita. Memphis is still up there.
Yeah, and so it's just I don't know. It's just a stupid like I think more what I'm really raging on is just the naked lack of philosophy that these arguments have. There's no consistency in philosophy because I guarantee you, Eric or some of the other people I was arguing with in this chat, and with their house and their yard, like I bet you, I don't know this for a fact. I'm just going to throw out some random assumptions. I bet you Eric lives in a neighborhood with a homeowners association. You chose that house in that neighborhood with a homeowners association because you wanted those controls on your neighbor. You opted into those by choice. Zoning is obliged by law. It's a whole different animal. That's the state imposing what you can do with your yard and what you can't do with your yard versus your neighbors agreeing as a community what you can and can't do with your yard. Those are
not even the neighbors. A lot of those HOAs, it's whoever's the head of it or like the board on the HOA.
Sure, but you still take that. You buy that house in an HOA neighborhood knowing that it exists and knowing that it's a process.
Usually. Sometimes it gets
well, if you don't, you're a fucking idiot. I don't know how to answer that question. I don't like, what do you, like, every realtor listing says this neighborhood's an HOA and it tells you how much extra you're paying on your mortgage. Yeah. Like the idea, that is one that's crazy to me. The idea that mortgage companies will include in an escrow account your HOAs. So literally you just pay your mortgage of X a month, and on a mortgage you have your interest, your escrow, and your premium and your principal that you're paying. Principal is how much you actually borrowed. Interest is interest. But then escrow is like for mine, for example, my property tax and my insurance come out of my escrow. So I don't have to worry about my home, my homeowner's insurance and my property tax. I don't have to think about it. At the end of the year, I get a letter from Knox County telling me new assessments and changes and all that kind of stuff. But I don't have to write a check to Knox County for my taxes. My my mortgage company does. That's in my escrow. That's a common thing. I think most mortgages do that until you pay it off, and then you start having to write a check directly. But the fact that HOAs somehow have the fucking gravitas to get, like giant financial mortgage companies to add to your escrow account for your house that you bought your homeowners association premiums or fees. Yeah. So it's $1,000 a year for your homeowners fees. that comes out at $80 a month or whatever the math is to pay into once a year. Your mortgage company pays $1,000 to your homeowners association, but you choose that. That's a choice.
Yeah. Are schools in a zone of their own, or is that considered commercial?
They're just they're not, like, if you go pull up a zoning map, they're just blanks.
Okay. So I'll say because they're not residential, I wouldn't really consider them commercial per se, but
I would. I mean, I would put them under commercial guidelines.
I didn't know whenever they're looking for a place. I guess if that kind of gets blanked out on the zoning maps.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, when you're looking at zoning, any state property is not zoned.
Yeah, that's true.
Which that's an interesting question, though. So that empty lot you're referencing up the street here that looks like you could build another house there because there was another house there. The rumor, the theory I always had, because that guy was in the middle of a remodel and just stopped. So I think it's like the old resident, the old actual resident died or sold off and moved or something like that, and a house flipper bought it. And this was right pre-pandemic or right during the early parts of the pandemic, when home values were shooting up super fast, also building costs were shooting up really fast. And so I think what happened was this guy started his flip and ran out of cash because what he had anticipated paying for the reno that he wanted to do was way less than what the building cost had started to be while he was doing it.
Yeah.
And so he just kind of got stuck in a halfway spot. I have multiple conspiracy theories on what happened with the burning down part of it. But that's all an aside to my point is that this house burned down, he came down and tore and demolished it, and now it's just an empty lot. Well, if he just disappears and stops paying taxes on it when the county gets pissed and takes it, does the county have the right to build something on that is not zoning? That's not zoned? Like, could they build a little Knox County Sheriff's satellite office in the middle of a residential neighborhood? Since county property doesn't have zoning rules? Or maybe it does? I don't know. That's a good question.
You would think that's something they would just put on the county auction or whatever.
Realistically, that would be the assumption. But I'm just saying, just somebody got a weird hair and says, let's just put we've been talking about trying to get, or could we sell it to Rural Metro? And then Rural Metro put a firehouse in there? Does the neighborhood have, what is a Rural Metro building? Like a firehouse? Does that have a zoning? Because, the one right here on North Shore is a house that they just built a big-ass garage on the back of, and now it's firehouse. I assume that was an R1 property before Rural Metro bought it, but I would also assume since Rural Metro was the owner of it, they had to get that zoning changed to at least some sort of commercial property. Because they're a for-profit enterprise. I would think, but that being the third-party aspect the county has. But if the fire department wants to build a firehouse on a city property, does it matter what the zoning of the property was before the city bought it?
So I said it's out in Turkey Creek. There's a Knox County Sheriff's satellite office.
There's a couple here and there. Yeah,
I was wondering what that's about.
Yeah, I don't know what the sheriff's office is like. I mean, you used to have the one in East Town.
If you wanted to go in and do a report and didn't want to have to drive, I don't even know where the main sheriff's county office is.
I mean, sheriff's offices are in the fucking detention center way up the fucking...
That's what I was about to say. It's probably in the detention center.
I mean, they used to have the one in East Town, but that was like a DMV. That was a clerk and KPD, or Knox County Sheriff's.
Yeah.
Whatever. I don't know. It's a good question.
Knock on the door. What do you guys do here?
So, yeah, anyway, so to finish my rant about how much I respect Eric's existence. I'm kind of jealous of his existence. I think it's a genius little niche he's carved out for himself. He is the conservative power broker in Knox County. I feel like I don't feel like that's overstating what he has made himself into through his consulting firm and whatever other bullshit that he does with his day job. I mean, his day job is his consulting firm. So literally he sells his service to candidates whom he recruits to be candidates and then goes and helps them fundraise so that he can pay his consulting fees. Genius little shell game that he's created. It's a great little, but one of the things he does as a consulting firm is he goes out and does some of these surveys. So he can consult with candidates and or elected officials about what the community thinks about certain topics. And so I flat asked him on this thing because he was citing that 80% of Knox County residents are against growth, And it's like, can I see that? Can you send me that question? Can you start sending me the surveys? I'd love to be in one, because if you're going to say 80% and you only ask 5 people, I'm going to be that one. I'm going to be the 20% that's the opposite of whatever your fuck you think's going on.
I think it says, what is this, almost 2,000 total?
No. Question number 4 on whatever this total survey was. When it comes, this was specifically for Farragut residents, was who this survey was sent to. I don't know exactly how many it was sent to. 384 responded.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how many people technically live in the township of Farragut. I'm going to guess it's a solid 5 figures. 25, 50,000.
Yeah, I wonder where he got the names for his mailing list, too.
Right. And so, the assumption is, and probably, like, this isn't a slight, I'm not trying to throw shade here, but the assumption is that he sent this out to a bunch of Republicans in
That's
Farragut.
what I would assume, yeah.
A bunch of people that he sends all sorts of shit out to, whether it's campaign stuff or otherwise. So I'm assuming that's his mailing list. I don't know, but I doubt that it was a general demographic slice that he took. It was a specific set that he had access to. That's my guess. I don't know if that's true or not. But anyway, 384 of the however many people live in the township of Farragut responded to his survey, with the topic being the pace of residential development preferences. Question number 4. When it comes to residential development, what do you prefer for the future of the town of Farragut? All right. So the response, the possible responses were more dense, less dense, current pace, opposed almost all. What the fuck are we talking about here?
Is there 2 of those negative?
3 of them are negative. The current pace is okay. I want more. I want less. You're right. And I want none. All right. So that's how it breaks down. I want more. I want more. I want more faster. I want it to stay the pace that it is. I want less density. I want no more development. No more growth.
Yeah. And
so the majority of respondents were less dense. And the absolute runaway combined of less dense and none.
Yeah, I started to respond back with the less dense, and I'm like, I almost started to read that as, less dense growth, basically. Like less density, basically.
They just
I want growth, I just don't want it to be, cookie cutter boxes right next to each other.
I mean, right.
And
They want less.
I was like, they want less actual dense.
Right. The growth that happens, they want it to be less dense. They want it to be more spread out. Okay, so that's what I take. They want more dense. They want apartment. So 22 people of the 384 responded. They want more density, and of those 22 people, what they're answering is they would like to see apartment complexes. They would like to see condo complexes. They would like to see a high-rise building, something like that. 46 people responded with the current pace. So whatever their current kinds of density formatting is, they're happy with. 204 people said that they would like to see the density change to less dense than what they're currently allowing. And then 112 people said that they would like to see no more fucking buildings, period. That's the way I read this.
Yeah.
So 316 of the 384 don't want growth. Well, of fucking course you don't. This question? Ask me this question. Ask me this question here for my neighborhood right now. I don't want to see more density. It's annoying. It sucks. I don't want to see more traffic. Like, it's a stupid fucking question. Of course the general answer is going to be opposed. Nobody's going to say, yeah, I want more, do you want to see more crime in your community? No, of course not. Now, if you put some context on it, like, with the amount of growth that Knox County has seen, we're going to be taking on more residents. Would you like to see us use would you like to see us condense some of the residential areas into high-density complexes that are near city centers where they have access to goods, or would you like to spread it out into more sprawl? Would you like to see more density and less traffic, or would you like to see less density and more traffic? Because it's not a complete opposite, equal and opposite reaction kind of thing, but it's pretty close. The more spread out we are, the more traffic we're going to see, right?
We raise some money and just buy some land from other counties.
Right, but I mean, it's just like, and then the Chodo development example. Everybody's all bent out of shape because some dude wanted to build a discounted housing complex out in Chodo, And the Choteau neighborhood lost their shit. But you know what they did? They lost their shit. They went down and yelled at county commission, said, don't do this. County commission's like, we got to think about this. And in the interim, they went and talked to the developer, and like 5 of the residents in Choteau bought the fucking thing from them. And then they built a smaller thing on there that's more appropriate for what they think's there. It's your fucking property. Do what you want with it. That's the solution. So of the 316 people in Farragut that don't want to see more density, start buying property and building single-family homes spread out 1 per acre on your property. If that's what you want, then do it. But don't tell me what I can do with mine. That's fucking crazy talk. Because what happens is okay, so if these 300 and whatever people get what they want and less density, what happens? Like logically, what's the logical end of that? The logical end of that is they're going to be expensive as shit. Even if they're not even luxury housing, they're just going to be expensive as shit because it's a supply and demand issue.
Right.
More people are moving here. More people want places to live. What happens when more people want places to live than there is access to places to live? The pricing goes up. Whether the houses are nicer or not is irrelevant, but the pricing goes up. Okay. Well, that's great for me if I already own a house, because then my house value goes up too. That's kind of cool. But then all the traffic and all the other parts and pieces that come with it.
And your property tax goes up.
Right. Which is fine too. I mean, I don't think that's big, but that's not necessarily that big. I would just say, like, it's just like, how do you think this? Like, I don't like. How do you like if you were one of these 300 whatever people in Farragut? How do you think this works? Like, I don't live in Farragut. I had lunch in Farragut with my dad this week. Like, they have nice amenities there. They have a cool restaurant scene. They've got this, that, and the other, and this all stuff. Like, fine. The township of Farragut takes 0 more residents over the next decade. What do you think happens to Farragut if that's the case? You have no more properties. All your properties are multi-million-dollar properties, and every Tom, Dick, and Harry from all over Knox County is coming in to buy things, and you're still having to deal with all the traffic and all the extra whatever of all this growth. You just don't really get to see any of the positive side of that because, well, you don't have any more residents. You have the same number of residents. Again, it does, like, it just like this. This is such a stupid fucking question, which is why I think my joke when I sent you this picture was, what was it? This is how you become a political consultant. You ask a question that you know what the answer is. You ask a question in a way that you know you're going to get the answer you want, so that you can turn around and tell the elected people that you help get elected or not, or go public with this. The majority of residents want this, that, and the other. It's like, well, the majority of residents are nobody who you picked from a select list of people out of a population that's a gajillion times bigger than that, with a question that doesn't even make any real fucking sense.
Yeah, you got a coin flip chance of getting a no.
Well, you didn't even have a coin flip chance. You had like a 10% chance of getting a no for it. But even that, it's just like, it's just like, it's the survey question and the respondents and the question and the possible answers and the number of respondents is null.
Yeah. It
is null in logic. It doesn't say anything. Do you want more traffic? No. Of course not. But God, I forgot who the quote is by. But it's like there in government and politics, there are no wins and losses. There are only compromises, I think is what it was, or concedings or something like that. It's like you can't do single issue conversation like this. It doesn't mean anything. Like maybe if question 3 was, are you comfortable with the amount of traffic there is? And this is question 4. Then question 5 is like, well, thinking about question 3 and 4, would you prefer more density and less traffic or more traffic and less density? That'd be an interesting question to ask.
Yeah.
Because those things do have, inverse consequences. That'd be an interesting question to put on a survey.
Like, okay, it may not go in your neighborhood, but it may go in the neighborhood right next to you.
But
so
this question,
you've still got the same issue.
This question doesn't mean anything. It's just such a stupid thing. Like, I am jealous of Eric. It's a fucking genius scheme he's got going on here, and I don't mean scheme in like legal or skeezy or anything like that. But it's just like it's a genius thing. He makes a ton of money doing this. I could do a better survey question than that, but if my intent is not to get the actual real feel from the neighborhood, if my intent is to continue an agenda, then I could absolutely put a questionnaire together that would get a set of answers that makes my argument correct and move forward.
Yeah.
Eric, I love you, buddy. I really do. Like, I really respect your gig. Come on the show. Tell me about how it works. I'd really I'd like to be your counterpart. You kind of need an opponent in war, or you're fighting with yourself. Speaking of Republicans, they hosted a city council forum, the dumbest of all city council forums, considering that they were the ones that put up the new law that forced the state to or the city to separate their districts and voting patterns. So they invited all city council candidates from all districts to come to one singular forum. 12 of the 18 showed up. Guess how fun that conversation was?
Not fun.
I mean, think about it. If you have, all right, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming out to our forum tonight. I'm really happy with all the candidates that show up. I'm really proud for all of these wonderful constituents who came out to take part in this today. Let's do some quick introductions. Everybody take a minute or two to introduce yourself. Tell us which districts you're running for. Tell us some of your top stances or whatever like that. How many people?
12.
Everybody takes their minute or so. By the time you get, okay, this is blah, blah, blah from District 1. By the time you get through it, each candidate's taking at least 2 minutes. We're 30 minutes into a forum, and all you've done is introduce yourselves. As an audience member, that doesn't do anything for me, especially if I live in District 2. I now know who the people who are running District 5 are. That's cool. I'm not voting for them. Actually, that's not true. District 5 isn't running.
Maybe their only chance to actually see them. There may not be any other forums for their districts.
I agree, but then when it gets to, okay, here's some policy questions. All right, Sam from District 2, will you give us a quick 35-second answer on how you feel about the potential sales tax increase in the city of Knoxville?
I'm for it.
Good answer. That's not how any politicians answer a fucking question, and you know it. But I'm saying, like, no debate. There's no time for debate. There's no time for real conversation about it. If everybody gets a chance to answer at a minute apiece, you have 3 questions, and you're an hour and a half into a thing.
Is this how it actually went?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Didn't know if you actually got to hear about this, I'm assuming.
But there are a number of forums scheduled for next week, so if you're a city council, if you want to bother paying attention, check it out. There's District 1, 6, and 4 have forums this coming week. And I do think I might try to throw together a District 4 one for the holiday. Maybe it'll be fun.
Worth a shot.
I just want some sales out of it. Use it as a sales thing.
Work too.
How do you feel about pirates? Do you think pirates are good or bad for city business?
I'm for against them. I've always loved that Marx Brothers statement.
For against?
For against, yeah. I'm for against it.
Yeah, cottage course. Juneteenth is this week. Did you celebrate?
I did not.
I mean, you did. You didn't work.
True. That's not really the point of it, though.
I don't like. I feel like I remember what early when we started doing the podcast was the first time I'd ever heard of it.
Yeah.
And I remember going, this should be a fucking holiday. And then a couple of years later, it was a holiday. Because it was in 2021 was the first year it was the federal holiday.
I believe so, yeah.
And then I think the year after the state went ahead and made it a state holiday as well. I think it deserves to be a holiday. I think it's lacking a signature style of a holiday. You know what I'm saying? Like Memorial Day, you always have the Indianapolis 500s that weekend.
Right.
Like there's like Memorial Day is a picnic, hot dog, beer drinking, race car holiday. It just is. Labor Day is the warm up to football season holiday with fireworks. Some places. We used to have the great fireworks show here. Really should bring back Booms Day. Really, really.
Yeah.
Fuck. I'll do it. All right.
Yeah, I mean, we
almost
had
an agreement. Almost an agreement at gmail.com. If you know anybody in Pilot Corp, Weigel's, Food City, Kroger, University of Tennessee, any of the tip top level of people that can sponsor an event, I will put together Booms Day 2026 if you guys want me to. I know how to work special events. I will make it happen. I just need the $500,000 show in sponsorship to even bother.
Yeah, I think it was probably celebrated for a little while, but we didn't really talk about the actual date at the end of the Civil War itself. We don't really celebrate that essentially being over with.
That's fair.
When I think that's been like the biggest war that we lost the most lives in because it's Americans on both sides.
Yeah, well, if you consider it that way, but yeah, fair enough. Yeah, it's like I just like it needs a signature to it, though. You know what I'm saying? Like holidays have a there's Juneteenth doesn't have a thing yet.
That just wasn't really popular. It was only really popular in one set of population of the country.
Well,
really.
and it doesn't, and it's kind of illogical, and Amelia had a nice had a smart post on the topic. She doesn't like Juneteenth because of a number of reasons. One of them is the Emancipation Proclamation technically only applied to Southern states. It was a way politically to try to function around some shit for the Civil War sake. So like she's her family's from Kentucky. Kentucky actually didn't officially free the slaves till like 2 or 3 years after the end of not after the Civil War, but after quote Emancipation Day of Juneteenth in 1865 or whatever it was.
Yeah,
like it was a couple years after that the northern states started legally banning slavery from existence and stuff like that. And so like I get it, it's a complicated thing because it wasn't a clean break. And it wasn't, and that's the truth. The truth was it
literally took soldiers marching down to Texas to be like, "Hey, this shit's over with. Can't do this anymore."
Yeah, and so that's and so I kind of get where she's coming from with that, and I can kind of respect that point of view on it. But it's like we've got to do like if we're going to celebrate it as something, we got to pick something though. Like it's not going to be perfect. Like we could do the Civil Rights Act Day. That'd be a fun one.
Yeah.
Whatever day the Civil Rights Act was ratified and signed off by the president and stuff like that. Like, I don't care which one, but I think it's important that we acknowledge, Compass did a whole thing this week. A couple other people that I did some reading on did like a whole bunch of as far as like Tennessee state law and education and stuff like that goes, and about teaching the history of slavery in Tennessee and teaching this, that, and the other. And some of the conservative Republican legislature moves to try to like downplay the history that was the shitty parts of our own history kind of thing. Like, how do you celebrate Juneteenth without kind of teaching about some of the fuckery that was slavery?
Right.
Yeah, that's a good question. And so there's a couple of different panels and interview sets that talked about that. And it's very interesting. Like, it's very interesting to just kind of like break that up.
Do what I kind of remember getting taught in like elementary school. They're like, it's about states' rights, and you just kind of gloss over it.
Right, right, which makes it hard because like, well, okay, so fine, it was about states' rights, but the federal government had to step in and say this is now illegal. You cannot do this anymore. We're done with it. And I think it's important that we pick a day. Like, I think it makes sense to do Juneteenth and be like, this is the day that we celebrate the correction of the biggest mistake. It's not even necessarily a fair statement, but the beginnings of the fix for one of the biggest and most and darkest parts of our own personal history. I think it's a valuable.
Talk about because it makes people feel bad.
Okay, I shouldn't. Why do you feel like I don't feel bad? I don't understand that.
I don't get that argument.
Like I do. I have made the argument. It's like I don't own a slave. I've never owned a slave. Don't come at me with that bullshit. Like I'm a fucking slave owner. Now, I don't know my history, and I'm okay with not knowing my history. And maybe part of the reason I'm okay with not knowing my history is I don't want to find out that I had the slave owners in my past. I don't think I did, but
I was trying to remember. I thought I read that like Nashville's been going on for like 20 plus years or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's criminal that it took this long to make some sort of official. Hey, we fucked up. This is our celebration of the beginnings of fixing that fuck up. I think that's a valid thing to put in place. And it should be celebrated as a, hey, we're not perfect. Things still ain't perfect. But this was a key point. This was a key turning point in fixing that major imperfection.
I mean, it took decades to recognize what we did to Native Americans just in like the actual like of taking them and forcing them into schools.
Oh, that's some fucked up shit.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, Ed Helms, you know who Ed Helms is?
Yeah.
He has a podcast called Staffu. It's a serial. It's one story over a season of like 8 episodes or so. Thanks to my ridiculous road trip I had to take last night, I got to listen to the entire 3rd season in concession, just back to back. So I got it all nice and compacted, so I didn't have to wait a week for the next one to come out or anything like that. It is a in-depth deep dive into the craziness that was Prohibition. So just on some of like it talk like I mean they go over some of the broad stroke stuff that like what was Prohibition, So ratification of the 18th Amendment, 19th, 18th. 18th Amendment banning the sale and consumption of alcohol in the United States. And then all the mob wars and stuff that came out of that, and the just like today, you'll have some legislature put a bill that forces a thing to exist or changes a law on a thing. Like, one of the questions we have, like when and this is one of the things that was super interesting to me about it is government's inability to understand what it's doing when it's doing it hasn't changed. So prohibition, there's a big groundswell of it. A lot of it was fucking racist as not racist as shit, anti-immigrant as shit on immigrant Germans. There's a whole bunch of immigration, anti-German sentiment because we just came out of World War I, where the Germans were a big part of the bad guys and that kind of thing. That's when we had Liberty lettuce, which is what you and I would call sauerkraut, and Liberty burgers. Like we did that back then too.
Freedom fries.
Right? We got our freedom fries when the French were pissing us off.
Yeah.
And so a lot of it was anti-German sentiment. A lot of it was anti-Catholic sentiment that was in play. There was a lot of Protestant kind of shit going on, which got this whole culture war groundswell of, popular, we want to get rid of alcohol in this country. And you had a whole bunch of U.S. House of Representatives people who had, there was a U.S. House member who had given a storage room in one of the Capitol office buildings right outside of the Capitol building to a bootlegger who would drive up from just up the street here at Cumberland Gap to get all his shine and stuff from his buddies, and then would go out to the Virginia coastline and pick up some shit getting imported from France and Scotland, some real good scotches from Scotland and stuff like that. Pick those up, and then he had a little warehouse office in the basement of one of the Capitol building office buildings, where he sold his liquor to senators and House members who would go out on the floor, sometimes drunk, to argue for prohibition law and stuff like that. And then argue for more funding for anti bootlegging operations and stuff like that. It's literally that kind the amount of corruption and all the crazy. It's an incredible podcast to listen to because it goes through all these different parts and pieces, gets real deep and into all the shit, and gets to the point where the U.S. Department of Treasury has hired a chemist to fuck with the formulation for denatured alcohol. That's what we call industrial alcohol, for fingernail polish remover and makeups and perfumes and shit like that. To where they accept the fact that having created prohibition, the theft of industrial alcohol to then be reworked into a drinkable version of alcohol, which is never good anyway. To this chemist is building formulations that they are adding to the stockpiles of denatured alcohol to make it minorly toxic, to make you sick and uncomfortable.
Yeah, I've heard about that. They were literally poisoning people.
And then to the point where they were putting straight wood grain alcohol into the mix that forces people to go causes people to go blind and die. That the federal government was actively killing people, knowingly actively killing people in an attempt to dissuade people from their desire for alcohol.
Wasn't it during Prohibition that they had actual, it was medicinal alcohol that you could get from a doctor's prescription?
Yeah, there were a bunch of little exceptions like that. There was that, which is a real medical, it's actually a true medical thing. There was religious exemptions, like the Catholic Church. Despite the fact that half of the thing was built on anti-Catholic sentiment, there was a carve-out for religious purposes, so you could still take wine in sacrament.
Right.
And so all of a sudden these churches went from a case or two a month to hundreds of cases and getting permits and paying off revenue agents for more permits.
Come get saved.
So they could get dozens and dozens of cases and start selling. And then these churches were selling cases of wine to their parishioners because they wanted they wanted their wine like normal people drink wine kind of shit. And so it was just incredible podcast, really fun to listen to, really neat and interesting. But the whole time I'm listening to it, it's the parallels is what's more is the upsetting part of it. It hasn't fucking changed. It's the same shit. It's the same shit this hemp law was. Briggs put this hemp law together, and it's we're going to keep people from getting high because high people do bad things, and it's bad for our society. So what's the solution? The entrepreneurial people out there figure out how to create subversions of the CBD and THC compounds that avoid the specific legal thing that you set up to go around it. And it kind of works, but it also kind of fucks people up. And in the bad way of fucking people up. And so now all of a sudden we're you know, and then a guy like Richard Briggs is citing the fact that people are getting fucked up on bad derivatives of marijuana as a reason why we need to ban it. And it's like, well, no, dude. If you didn't ban it in the fucking first place, that part wouldn't exist. This is a reaction to your law. It isn't your law. It doesn't prove your law needs to exist. It proves that your law that people are that the demand for the product is not going away. Because that's the real lesson of prohibition in history to me. Is there's been no civil society in the history of time that has lasted for a significant period of time without inebriating substances as part of their culture. Short of a handful of Muslim societies are pretty.
Yeah, I was about to say. I think it's within their religion that they don't allow it.
At least in Western culture, specifically. And honestly, I don't know if you're gonna like. I don't know. Like if I were the worst kind of like destructive, like wannabe tyrant leader, I feel like more excuses for people to escape from the shit show that I'm dropping in front of them is probably good for me and my wants. Like if everybody was sober, do you think they'd put up with the same amount of shit that they're putting up with right now?
Yeah, probably not.
You know, so it's probably a good thing.
But you run the risk of too much and people like getting super angry about it. And they're like, fuck it.
I'll tell you what, man. I've been down a rabbit hole of rage recently. Rage Against the Machine. Like I've been listening to a ton of Rage recently. Right. Like I'm thinking about like building my mayoral campaign around Rage. Like I'm like every stump speech I give is going to have Rage Against the Machine playing in the background. I'm going to reach out to Zach De La Rocha and Tom Morello and be like, hey, is it cool if I run my mayoral campaign?
Rally around your family. Just don't say the second line. That takes a totally different meaning.
I don't know. I don't know. Like, but yeah, if I'm running for mayor, my campaign is I will take a playbook. I will take a page from Eric Wader's playbook. If you don't like growth, get the fuck out. Here's 1-800-U-Haul. I'll play that one. I'm like, we're going Metro, and we're getting mass transit. This bitch. That's my entire campaign. And zero zoning, like no zoning law. I don't give a fuck. I don't care if you own it. It's yours. Do what you want with it, man. You're responsible for any damages. It'll make a very interesting there'll be a very interesting civil law thing. We might have to hire a few more judges in Knox County, where if you're going to have, you know, some developer build a whole thing because you can build whatever you want. I don't care.
I think that would fare well with kind of big businesses of the area.
I don't know, but it'd be interesting. Some of the civil side would be interesting because because the other side, I don't know if it's within the mayor's purview, but like I'll open up to civil suits. Like if you want to sue a developer because of the negative effects of his development on your property or on your lifestyle or something like that, go right ahead. If you can prove that there is a direct connection between that developer and what they did, and it has a negative effect on you, go get after it. I'm good with that.
I don't think you'd have much legal basis for it. It'd take a lot to prove.
It'd be a tough one, but I'm just saying, like, you know, why do I have to be the one? Like, why does the state have to be the one to make that, to draw that line? You draw the line between yourselves. Figure it out. You know, it may become a cost of doing developments. You just kind of write in a couple $1 million for legal settlements. You know, you're going to get sued from this, that, and the other. It's like, okay, here you go, neighbors. Here's a $500,000 for each of you guys, and we're settled on any negative consequences of my development.
So you'd be okay with some company buying 3 of your neighbors' properties, putting a trash dump right next to you?
No, I would hate it, and I would be pissed off that he didn't buy mine.
Why'd you stop with me?
Yeah, what was there something wrong with mine? Why didn't you offer me mine?
Right.
You know, I mean, but no, okay, yeah, I would. Okay. Well, if the framework that I just put together is in place, sure. Because that would be a very easy argument to make. You put a dump next to my house went from a $300,000 house to a $100,000 house. It's a very straight line. I think I could convince a jury with the preponderance of the evidence that the loss in the value of my home is directly related to the fact that there's a dump next door that wasn't there before.
Yeah.
Like, I think that would be a fine civil suit to make. And I'm good with that. Like, that makes sense to me. Because it's direct and it's easy and it's logical.
Nightclub?
Same thing.
All night nightclub?
Sure.
I don't think that would affect your property value as much. It's going
Not
to
as
keep you
much
up
as
at night with doom.
Not as much as no. I mean, absolutely. I mean, it wouldn't affect as much as a dump, but it would absolutely affect the property value because it'd be hard to sell a house.
Possibly.
Somebody comes over. Somebody comes. I'm like, I don't want to live next to this. I want to sleep at night, so I'm going to sell my house. I put the yard sign out front, and people come by and they're like, what is that? Oh, it's a nightclub. I mean, their realtor, maybe not my realtor, but their realtor is going to be like, yeah, it's a nightclub.
Yeah, it's okay. They close at 3.
Right, and they're loud, and they stay up. They stay open to the edge of time, and it's loud. You know, like noise ordinance one that I'm okay with. Like as far as like the state having whatever, it's like I get that. You know, like I have we've been sitting on the backyard, and Jen and Aaron Nelson own it now, but the old Perros across North Shore, they used to have bands out back, and they're fucking loud. The Mexican restaurant too. I'm not sure. Sometimes you can tell which one's which by the music.
Yeah.
But you know, when it gets Pocafeel, it's usually the Mexican restaurant. When it's not Pocafeel, it's usually the other one. But you know, it's like, you know, like noise ordinance I can get because it's a little bit more ethereal, it's a little less direct. But it's like, yeah, I have a right to complain about the fact that the status quo is that we sleep at night, and if you're going to make a bunch of fucking noise at night, that's a negative effect on me and my lifestyle. Like, I mean, really, the only thing on the property value, the property argument to me that I have struggled with in libertarianism is intellectual property. That's the tough one. There are some branches in the libertarian movement that think there should be no such thing as intellectual property. And I get the argument. Like, there's a guy, he came through town not that long ago. He's a musician, artist kind of thing. And his whole thing, like, is he just steals everybody else's stuff. And the argument makes sense to me.
Does he tweak it at all?
I mean, like he doesn't play like a copy. Like he doesn't get a CD or a record and put it down and play it and claim it as his own. But he will perform it in his way on whatever, you know, variation instruments that he has available or whatever.
But he'll play ASCAP.
Right, and like the argument makes sense to me. It's like yes, it should be criminal for me to paint a copy of the Mona Lisa and sell it as the Mona Lisa. But for me to sell a copy of the Mona Lisa as a copy of the Mona Lisa, I mean, you know, regardless of the time frame, why does Da Vinci get that? It's out there. It's now a physical thing in the world. I can see it. You can see it. Like, you know, you go to an art class or whatever. You put a rock in the middle of the room and everybody draws the rock. Does the owner of the rock have rights to the likeness of the rock?
Well, now you're comparing it to just drawing of an inanimate object. But if you're profiting off of what someone else has created,
but once it becomes part of the zeitgeist, it's hard to argue that it's yours anymore. You can't. It's in my head. You can't own what's in my head, right? So, fucking Radiohead's "Creep." Everybody knows Radiohead's "Creep." It's in my head. I could probably sing the whole song and roughly get my way through it on a guitar, and at least get the general idea of that song out right here, right now, if I wanted to try to.
Right.
It's in my head.
And it's fine to live there, but when you decide you're going to then take something that isn't yours at all, you may have your own thing, but if you're going to profit off of it, you're not putting it out there as yours, obviously. You're not saying, hey, I just wrote this. Here we go. ...
Right. This is my rendition of a song by Radiohead, Creep. Oh. I get the argument. I'm not saying I agree with it. Let me back up.
I thought you said you were agreeing with them that
I get the argument.
Intellectual property shouldn't be a thing.
I get the argument, and I'm not sure. I'm honestly not sure where I sit on it. It's one of those like in libertarianism. It's one of those very complicated. Like that's one of those immigration and intellectual property are probably the two. Abortion's actually another one inside libertarianism that's real complicated too. But they're some of the most complicated like philosophical struggles because like if you get down to the base philosophy of stuff, it's like, well, I don't know if you own it anymore. Once you put it out in the air, it's a hard thing to say it's still yours.
Isn't it registered somehow?
Well, in the current system or whatever, but that's not the point.
Is it considered like a copyright that you have on it? Or is it? It's not a trademark. The copyright?
Yeah, it's a copyright.
Yeah.
But it's weird because realistically, like a live performance of somebody else's music is not copyright protected. If you go into the studio and record it, it is. So like by U.S. law at least, if like when we were in that one band that one time and we did White Room, right?
Yeah.
So Cream, is that Cream or Eric Clapton? I can't remember.
It's Cream.
So Cream or whoever bought the Cream catalog at some point over time owns the rights to that song. We go out and perform it live. When we go out and perform it live, the venue is obliged to pay royalties to Cream. We are not, as a performing artist. If somebody is to record that, whether it's us or a third party, I'm not sure if the venue was the recorder, how that would work. But if it was us, like straight off the board, we put it on like we just recorded our live show and then sold a live version. Cream has no rights to claim any ownership of that song against us. It's weird. Like, it's real weird and complicated. Because at the end of the...
Can't you get around that if you're a paying member of ASCAP or whatever?
Well, you don't have to get around it at all. It doesn't matter. The musician, the performer doesn't have to be a member to use the...
As long if you put out an album, you just have to credit them somewhere, basically.
It has to be live, though. Like, you can't put out a studio album. We couldn't do a studio cover of it where we went to the studio and did White Room. And put it on out like we could. Okay, let me back up. So we had a handful of originals, and we did a bunch of covers. If we went out and did a live recording of all our covers and did a studio version of all of our originals, there's no copyright violation in that, as long as it is live in front of an audience of some sort. Which is also kind of weird because you could argue that the engineer and the producer or an audience in studio.
He just hit record. We're like, hey, it sounded pretty good. Let's keep it.
Yeah, but it's weird. But again, but just like that's one of the weird ones that I struggle with in like the Libertarian Party struggles with philosophically. And like again, I get both sides of it. It's like, look, I created a thing. I created a piece of art. It's mine. I should be the one that gets the profits off of that, not somebody making copies of my shit.
Yeah.
That's agreeable, whether it's a physical piece of art, whether it's an image piece of art, but at the same time, I get the argument is if you have a photographic memory and you're a good artist, I show you again, like I show you Madonna. Was it Madonna on the Rocks, the one with the fucking this thing with the clamshell?
Oh, Venus de Milo.
Yeah, Venus de Milo. I show you. I show you that, and you're. I show you that, and your memory is so good, and your photograph memory is so good that you can redraw that almost exactly. As long as you don't say it is the original, it's in your head at that point.
Yeah, but you intended it. It's one thing to kind of be inspired by it, and it happens a lot in music where, artists will sue someone where. I've seen it at least half the time.
You cannot copyright the 1-5-4 chord progression or the 1-4-5 chord progression. It is not possible.
Even then, like you were saying, that sometimes artists do it inadvertently. It's like, oh yeah, like I did own like their first two albums. I hadn't even thought about that. Like, yeah, that does sound a lot like it. I didn't do it. They weren't doing it intentionally, but it was something that was in their head. And they kind of like hear like a rhythm or a chord progression. They're like, actually sounds really good. I like that.
But even that doesn't regardless. It because that's just it. It's like proving intent in other crimes.
Right.
Did you intend to?
Right.
Was it in your head because you heard it, or was it in your head because your head created it?
Well, that's where you kind of get into like debating the severity of the punishment or whatever, like whether it was direct or inadvertent. Like a lot of times when bands do that, they're like, oh shit, you're right. I didn't think about it. Like that does sound like blah blah blah.
I don't know, like I said, I get.
And most bands are happy to kind of like pay out a little bit. Like you're right. That does sound a lot like your original.
I get both sides of this one, and I don't know where I land on it. Like at the end of the day, like I trademarked Rusty the dog, my race car driver, for Holloway.
Yeah.
And I will sue the shit out of somebody if they try to use that for other things. Like I will get the lawyer to send a cease and desist and be like, if you made a single dollar off that, you owe me half of everything you made. And you need to send out and you're obliged to send out some sort of we stole this from somebody else kind of statement or something like that. I don't know. Because we paid to get that created. I paid an artist to make that for me.
Right.
And so I don't know. It's weird. How do we start on fucking copyright law? I told you I was in a good mood tonight. Feeling good. Have sleep. I'm gonna have to take a time out to get a little more ice.
Start talking about rights or something.
Philosophy, I think, is where we started with. There's no philosophy. There's no Democrat. There's no Democrat. Democratic, capital D Democratic philosophy. There's no capital R Republican philosophy. They are not. There's no philosophy behind what they do. They just hold on to whatever. They hold on to make arguments for whatever the fuck makes sense today. And it goes back and I'm not sure if I take comfort or if it's more upsetting that having listened to that great podcast on prohibition, that prohibition was culture wars as close to what we're doing in culture wars right now as anything else. It is exact in line with, it was a significant minority got real loud about a topic. The apparently the argument at least is that prohibition was the first single issue ballot item. So that the what the fuck was it called? Basically the temperance movement, the different what we would call lobby groups that were the temperance movement, did such a good job in their promotion of whatever that they literally they had in actual letters in the mail mailing this kind of stuff. It's this candidate is a pro prohibition candidate, you should vote for them. It was one of the first issues. It was one of the first what we would call single issue items on it's I don't care where you are or anything else. You could be good with raping kids. You could be good with this. You could be good with that. But you're anti-alcohol, so we're on Team U. Yeah, it was one of the first things that kind of. But again, my point being is it's 100. That was 100 fucking years ago, 100 plus years ago. This all was happening. If you get down to it, the temperance movement started in 18. 80, no, not 18, 1850, 1840, something like that. The first kind of pushes in the temperance movement, and it's the long game. It's some of the conservative movement stuff has been the long game. The long game. I can't remember who's credited with kind of the long strategy for the Republicans on the national level. Is the long game was the judiciary. The long game for some of the anti-abortion, anti-gay law, anti-LGBTQ stuff. From the right has been the judiciary. It's we need to get presidents elected so that we can push them to appoint this judge, the Supreme Court. Right. And that's how we got that. That is what happened.
Well, you get further by just all the other federal judges that get appointed.
Right. But the long game, the long game that the right, that the evangelical right, the anti-abortion right played was the judicial long game.
Yeah.
Was we're going to get judges' assignments. We'll get you elected. We'll do everything we can to get you elected. And when you get elected, you do whatever the fuck you want to do. But we're not asking you to pass laws on X, Y, and Z. But when this judge appointment comes up, you're going to put the person we asked you to put in. And that's what they did. And that's essentially the temperance movement did the same kind of thing. And so it's I don't know. Again, my backing up a second, I am not sure if I take comfort or if it scares me worse that 100 plus years ago we're playing the same fucking game in this country. I think we've swung back in the corruption side. I think corruption came down a little bit when we were younger, and it's swinging back up currently. Certainly back in this era, the corruption, the Prohibition era, the corruption was at a significantly high level.
I like to think it's harder to hide nowadays.
The AG, the U.S. There's some guy One of the there was a senator who was a customer of the bootlegger that I was joking about, who also owned a Scotch company. There was a guy who was a lawyer. I don't know. It's just like the level of corruption. Like that's what's. I guess that was scary. What was scary about the cast. Like the gut reaction is just like the level of corruption during the Prohibition was like astounding. I don't know. U.S. president is selling fucking phones right now.
I did read about that.
What are we talking about? And they're trying to say they're U.S.-made phones, which doubt it.
Yeah, that's the other thing I heard. Like, there's no way that they're it's like $400 or $500. So, like, there's no way they're building a new phone for $400 or $500.
Yeah, there's a company that's been doing a U.S.-built phone for a couple of years now. That theirs is about $2,000.
I think it's supposed to be gold and has an American flag on it.
Right, it's 40. It's model 4745 or 4547 or something like that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, you gotta sneak him in where he went. Frank Nicely died.
Did say that.
I don't know. Frank Nicely was a complicated man. Apparently, he was pro-Hitler, sort of.
What?
There's a quote apparently. A couple of years ago, when there was some sort of state legislation on basically sleeping in public areas, city parks or state parks, stuff that the state had jurisdiction over in public land, and it's basically like an anti-bum / anti-protest, like you can't camp out on the Capitol lawn, right, kind of shit. He made some sort of statement that was like, homelessness can be transition. Can be a transition. People can get out of homelessness and do good things. So like Hitler was homeless for a while. He didn't transition into doing good things, but like he was at least or whatever. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? like it's a really weird reference.
Find a better example than
that. Was the reference you like off the top of your head? That was a reference you had to throw out there. Right. Like I know random history things. Yeah, but that's a really. Yeah.
I'm reminded of an interesting story I read about.
I mean,
a good friend was telling me about.
I recall that is technically historically true, but it's like you never want to accidentally bring up Hitler in a positive phrasing.
As an example of someone that he picked himself up by the bootstraps.
He pulled himself up from his homeless issues to become the
meth head.
The biggest worst is like meth and cow semen. Junkie to ever kill 6 million or 60 million people or whatever the total was in that fucking war and shit.
Estimated 6 million. Oh, yeah, in the war, sorry.
The Holocaust isn't real. What are you talking about? I didn't say that. I'm just kidding. I'm fucking kidding. I'm kidding. It's terrible. 6 million plus Jews and gypsies and whatnots. I don't know. Apparently the city of Knoxville has appointed a new poet laureate. $3,000 a year. It's a good thing. If you can write a good rhyme, you can make $3,000 a year from the city of Knoxville. For 2 years. It's a 2-year term.
I think Tot State might have been one before.
I don't fucking know. The West High School stories, I don't know what to do with. Like, I'm in a weird spot on that one. Like, that's direct to me. Like,
I saw his lawyer put out a statement the other day.
My oldest is in the West High School football program right now.
All right.
And I've got a million different rumors that I've heard from different people that I know within the program, and I don't know. I just don't fucking know. Like,
I mean, if anything, it should be much safer because there's that much more scrutiny and eyeballs on it now.
Right, but I mean, the problem, like the thing is, like what's interesting to me, like if my top level takeaway, it's like, okay, so Ryswick fired the head coach because it's like you're the boss here. There's only two plays, right? You have two people under you that are doing bad things and you know about it and you didn't say anything, or there's two people that are doing bad things and you didn't know about it and you should have.
So the coach was never accused of doing anything?
No.
Okay.
The coaches, the investigation on the head coach was did you know, and you should have known. So he's dead in the water. You know what I'm saying? Like, you should have known.
Yeah.
This is your thing. This is your program. You need to pay attention to your shit. And I agree with that argument. But at the same time, it's like you have the head of Knox County Schools who, if we're going to get into the analogy or whatever, he's the captain of the ship. This is happening on your ship. Well, if the head of if the captain is the one that gets killed when problems are happening on the ship, You know what I'm saying? It's just it's two different size ships we're talking about, but it's at the end of the day, it's the same boat, right?
Kind of.
I'm just saying, like, but I mean, like, you know, and so, you know, I've like again, like all sorts of rumor mill stuff that apparently Ryswick and West High School's principals have problems with each other. It's a principal issue, and this was an excuse for Ryswick to take a jab at the West High School principal. Can't get rid of the principal, tenure, all sorts of bullshit.
Yeah.
So couldn't take a jab there, and so had an opportunity to take a jab here, so took the jab here.
They mentioned there are other schools that run an investigation.
Right.
With no specific details. I'm assuming it's probably the couple schools that had like their booster clubs and looked at.
Well, no, I mean, like, I don't know. Like, all right, so...
Those are the few that made public.
So the specific allegations of the two coaches in play, so one is a paid coach, one's an unpaid coach. Different levels of shit. The paid coach has been fired. The unpaid coach is not allowed to be around. And from what I have heard from talking to my people that I know, because I'm sort of tangentially involved in this thing, is that the paid coach probably did what he's accused of. And what I'm hearing from the people that I've talked to about it is the unpaid coach, the shaver, probably didn't. Because of the accusation, like, this is the...
No, let's not go into it.
Yeah, I don't. It's all rumor mill shit, so it's kind of irrelevant.
That's what I was about to say. Yeah.
I just don't know what to do. Like,
I was like, I heard from a good source at this and this and this.
I mean, like, it's a source that's been in the that it's a dad that's been in the program for 3 years now,
right.
And he's the type of dad that's in the program, like where I'm like, hey, you know, turn my kid to keep my kid healthy and physically doing stuff and get him involved, and I'm just going to stay over here. That's, you know, all they want. I mean, all they want out of the dads and moms and dads, not just dads, but all they want out of the moms and dads is fucking fundraising anyway.
Sure.
And I don't like. I'm perfectly happy to stay over here.
Pick them up from practice on time.
You don't want my fundraising anyway. I've had multiple. Like, it's the funniest thing ever. I've had so many fucking emails from so many different fucking school board, or not school board, but different groups inside of the school system. Be like, hey, does your small business? Because they find out that I own a business. Yeah, you should sponsor this. You should sponsor that. It's like, okay, this is what I do.
Oh, okay, we'll get back to you.
Never mind.
Yeah.
Can you guys just fucking just do one phone call and be like, hey, this guy's a cool guy. He's not a bad dude.
Can you take me off your list?
Don't ask him for money, because he's going to say he's willing to say yes, but then you have to say no to his yes.
Right.
Because it's not that he wants to advertise to kids. It's he wants to support the schools. 100%. I want to support the schools. But you don't want my support because I'm an evil drug dealer. And I'm okay with that. What else is going on, man?
Thought I saw something else interesting local.
I gotta pee. Hold on. Look that up and we'll be right back. We're back, people. I just had to get some more ice for my rum. I lied about peeing. Yeah, so what's the headline here? Let me pull the headline up so I can make sure I quote this correctly. The trophy's bowl is cracked and the bottom dented. Those goddamn Floridians fucked up our Stanley Cup. No? Nothing?
It's happened before.
That
was my immediate response. I mixed up the teams, but yeah, like the Avalanche dropped it. That was the one when they were doing like the big photo out on down the ice. Somebody was skating and like dropped it, and I think it just like dented the bottom of it.
Yeah, well, my like
Tampa Bay like threw it in the water or like dropped it on like they were doing like their boat parade.
Yeah, well, the Patriots won the Super Bowl. No, when Tampa Bay won the Super Bowl with Tom Brady a couple of years ago, they were doing a boat parade or whatever, and Rob Gronkowski threw it to somebody from boat A to boat B. Everybody freaked the fuck out. It's like, yeah, that'd be a problem. That thing would sink quick.
It's relatively shallow, but it would take you a while to find.
Yeah.
It's not clear water.
No, it ain't. But congratulations to the Florida Panthers. It's 3 in a row? 2 in a row.
2 in a row.
Three visits in a row, 2 wins in a row.
I think so. I'm not sure.
I don't know. But
This was the first time, I forget how many years, that like the same two teams went to it back to back. It had been like 20 years or something like that.
We got some tickets to. We're going to go see Taylor Swift, not in concert. We're going to go see Taylor Swift at a football game. Kansas City's coming to Nashville this year.
Nice.
Christmas week. And I don't know. I'm
Bring your binoculars.
I'm going to bet. I'll bet a goodly sum that Taylor's going to be there. It's a home game for her, and her boyfriend's coming to visit.
Yeah, she may have another tour obligation. It's possible.
Yeah, I mean, they were flying. Like she was flying back from Brazil for playoff games.
Yeah, it's playoffs. I don't know. Maybe. I always kind of forget that like there's only 13, 14 football games in a year for each team.
17. Well, 17 weeks, 15 games. They get 2 bye weeks. Yeah. I don't know. It's just funny. I don't know. Like I was looking at their Tennessee Titans schedule sucks. They have no like. There's like I was looking through their schedule. I was like, what game do I want to go to? No, nah, like get kids into football. I'm trying to encourage them into football. Taking a pro game. To the Packers game last year. I wanted to go to the Packers game. Obviously, I might wear my Packers jersey to the Chiefs game because I want
the fun of it.
What else am I going to wear? But yeah, I don't know. It's just it was it's like I don't know. It's one of those like I'm trying to lean into some of the shit, some of the perks that are supposed to be my job that I just don't give myself the time to take. And for his sake, for lack of a better way to phrase it, I'm going to lean into it. That's how I got the Packers tickets last year. That's how I got these tickets. I'm going to try to get some UT tickets this year. I'm not paying for them. It's like I spend thousands of dollars with you motherfuckers, and you guys give tickets away to all sorts of fucking people. I'm going to be one of those people.
Right.
Like, why am I not taking advantage of this shit? One of our vendors has got a golf tournament coming up. I'm out of town, so I can't go. And I was like, I told Anthony, I was like, just fucking go. Take your dad. I don't give a shit. They're paying for it. You get a free T-shirt. Go fuck around, get some food, get some drinks, play a free round of golf. Do it, man. I don't give a shit. There's like it's free for us. Great. The fucking hotel room and everything.
Huh. Did see Deion's son. I guess the new quarterback up in Cleveland.
2 or 3 in a row. They're in a week.
What?
Arrests or citations?
Oh, I just saw one. He got caught doing like 101 or something in a residential.
Yeah, it was a couple. There was a couple of them. Max and I
of
were
just
talking,
him?
Huh?
Of just him?
Yeah, this week.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, there's more than one in the same time period.
I didn't see that. I just
like,
saw
Max and I were talking about it a little bit between him falling asleep on me while I was talking to him on the road trip back.
So I was asking, did they offer to like drive a little bit?
No, I wasn't thinking. I was like, because for them, there's a whole different animal for them. Like, I was trying to do that. Like, about so for them, what we know is Wednesday at 10 p.m. is when they started traveling, and I picked them up Friday at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
So they had been on the move. They were sleeping on the plane, sleeping here, sleeping there, whatever. But they had been on the move from 10 a.m. Wednesday night to 2 a.m. Friday morning by the time I got to them. And so, yeah, they got in the car, and Jen and Brady fell asleep in the back seat like immediately. And Max and I talked for a little bit, and like I was in the middle of talking about something, and it was one of those like I ended what I was saying with like something that would like invoke a response, and I got nothing, so I turned the podcast back on. And I chugged some coffee, and so I had to stop to pee. And when I stopped to pee, he's like, "You got pee or something?" It's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Okay." And so I got back in the car, and as we're pulling out of the rest stop, he's like, "All right, we're going to the airport." It's like, "Okay, cool." And then he fell right back asleep. And I went right back to my podcast. And then, like about Lenore City is when he woke back up, and we talked. Like we conversed a little bit for that last little stretch.
Yeah,
I was actually like honestly, surprisingly, because like I've been going to bed pretty standard, like 10, 11 o'clock. Like I was ready. I was getting ready to go to bed when the text came in. Like, I I'm actually a little surprised how well I handled that whole thing. Like, for how my standard schedule has become this summer, it didn't bother me that much. Like, I was tired, don't get me wrong.
It could be a testament, too. You've actually been getting good rest, so your body was able to handle it a little bit easier.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, today hasn't been too bad either. I mean, there was a couple of times where it was like, me to run over to the pharmacy or drugstore, grab some crap or whatever, and I was talking to the missus about it, and I was like, I'm gonna go over there. I need to keep moving. Like, I'm in shark mode. Got Jaws in the background on. Like, I'm in shark mode right now. As long as I'm moving, like realistically, as soon as we're done, as soon as we hit stop on this podcast, I might just fall asleep in this chair. Because
I don't know if I got the strength to drag you up the stairs.
Yeah, don't worry about it. I'll sleep down here.
I'll at least see if I can get you over to the big beanbag chair.
And fucking Scott today. Like, okay, so I'll throw this out to our listeners too. If you want to try to draw what you think this room looks like, I'd be curious to know. Scott has a thing where he just kind of likes to say luxurious. Like there's a couple of different adjectives he likes to use when, so like his introduction's like, this is Compass Boys Podcast. I'm Scott Barker, the editor. We are in the luxurious. He said, opulence. One of the words he likes to say. He said gilded today, and I was like as he said it, with my sleep deprivation, I'm looking around the room. I was like, as a Packers person, the Packers say their colors are green and gold, and I do have some Packers stuff down here, so there is a little bit of gold in that sense. And then he compared me to Trump, and I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, it's similar to the Oval Office in the sense that you have a desk and behind you there's a window. And I was like, okay. And so I put a challenge out to the Compass listeners to draw a portrait of what they think this room looks like. And I'm very hopeful that somebody or a few somebodies do.
Well, they're going to expect a picture. Like, nope, sorry, that's wrong.
I mean, I've said
prove it.
I shared one picture one time of I took a picture of back when Jesse was still on the show. I took a picture while we were recording, and I posted it to the colloquy. To which I got comments about Macklemore. That's all I got.
You've had a couple live where you had Gloria, then you had.
Yeah, but that's if they listen to that's if they listen to this show and their show. They know that part,
right?
But even that, when I've done those shows, it's a pretty tight camera.
So Chris, just a little one shot.
Right, it's a pretty tight camera, and so all they're getting is that set of curtains and Macklemore, which I love. Which fuck you, AC. By the way, I love you, buddy. You are on my short list of people that I will drive to Atlanta at 10 o'clock at my bedtime to go pick up from the airport. But him making fun of the Macklemore thing, that is one of my favorite things that I own. It really is. It's stupid, don't get me wrong. It's not pretty, it's not amazing, but it's special. That was the first concert I took my kids to.
Is it?
Yeah. And it was weird because it was U.S. Cellular was doing a thing it was a U.S. Cellular sponsored show. It was a free show. Tickets were free if you went into a U.S. Cellular store and picked them up. And so I went into a U.S. Cellular store when I was working for Littman. There was one particular day when they started giving away the free tickets. And I went into a U.S. Cellular store that was near one of my stops for route I was running that day. And I got 2 tickets. And I was like, hey, I this is cool for me and one kid, but I'd like to take my wife and my other kid. And they're like, well, we can only give you 2. I was like, okay, cool. And so I went and continued my work day, and my work day ended up being by a different U.S. Cellular store, and I stopped in there and got 2 more tickets. And so we went to the show. So one of my things has always been, I think you know this with all the Radiohead shows we've been to together, when I go to a show, I buy a T-shirt. It's always my thing. I buy a T-shirt, not necessarily because I like the T-shirt or don't like the T-shirt, but that's my memento of the concert. It's not about taking pictures. It's not about, whatever. My memento for a concert is I get a T-shirt. And that's been a thing that me and Mrs. have done for a number of shows. Every concert we go do together, we always get a T-shirt or a hoodie or some sort of clothing apparel. That's always been the thing we do. And so when we were taking the kids to this Macklemore show, and they were way too little to go to a Macklemore show, don't get me wrong. But like when we were taking the show, it's like, this is a particular occasion. This is their first real concert that they've ever been to. We're going to make sure we mark the date. Like, this is important to us. And we go, and there's no merch. None. Like, a little bit of, like, and concessions was weird. Like, concessions was only half open. So we went and we hung out. We watched a little bit of the show and we had a good time or whatever. And we're like, we're heading out, and the concert's still going on. And we're walking around the concourse, and there's no merch. And so we're walking around the whole thing, and we go like, somebody that worked for Thompson Bowling, we're like, hey, is there like a merch stand somewhere? Like, we'd like to buy some merch. And they're like, yeah, I don't know. And so like we get over, like, we're like, oh, well, what the fuck do we do? So we keep walking, and there's all these little things that U.S. Cellular is like, it was a triangle of these portraits.
Yeah. On
a little frame, on these little frames that were spread out all over the place, because it was really just to promote U.S. Cellular or whatever. He's like, I should get if I was serious about supporting what got me here, is I would buy a U.S. Cellular phone or whatever. And so we get to we've done a whole lap around Thompson, the concourse Thompson. Like, we can't find anything to buy to commemorate the occasion. And so like there's a security guard that's like, hey man, this is our kid's first concert. We were wanting to buy some merch or something. We can't find any merch sales. Can we get one of these posters? Because they looked like we thought they were posters or whatever. I didn't realize it was like this cloth print thing.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I don't know. And he's like, I was like, well, what does that mean? He's like, you know what? Okay, fine. And he went over and ripped it off the thing. And he's like, I don't know where this came from. I don't know how you got it. Bye.
That's pretty cool.
And we're like, we're out of here. And so we walked out, got in the car, and went home, and like that will be like, that is a thing that I will never throw away until the day I die. And then I will give that, like, that will be for the kids to fight over in escrow. Because like, that's just like, that is like, that is a specific occasion to me. And so like, I don't care what you think about Macklemore as an artist or whatever. Like, that is like, it's an important piece of,
to you.
As a person, right? Which is, I mean, that, like, look around the room though. Like, that's the thing. It's like, we're talking about this gilded thing that Scott was joking about. They're like, there's not a thing in this room that isn't important to me. You personally are important to me. I love you, but that's not the but like everything in here, like other than this stupid bottle of tequila that my fucking brother-in-law gave me that I have no desire to even touch, and I don't know why I haven't thrown it away yet. But like everything in here is like something specifically personal to me. It has nothing to do with anybody else. It doesn't make sense. Like 9 out of 10 people are going to sit in that chair where you're sitting right now. If I do when I start doing my city interviews, they're not going to know what any of this stuff is. Like that thing right there is one of my favorite things in the universe. Yeah. But it's like so specifically weird that like nobody understands. Like nobody gets that.
Yeah.
That's what this room is. Love this room. Although, like, yeah. Legos. I got all sorts of good shit in this room. But no gold. That's the moral of that story.
I thought you were going to something like that before that.
I don't remember. I probably was.
Some story that you had read recently, I thought. Did you pull up the news story you were talking about?
Which one?
Never mind.
I don't remember. What was I talking about?
You were like, oh, there was a news story.
On?
No idea.
Oh, shit. No, I don't recall.
Tay no biggie.
Yeah, Stanley Cup. We got the Stanley Cup thing. We got Eric Weider's an idiot. I don't know. This one, I texted this one to you on Monday. I'm still really confused. Who was the shooter in the Minnesota?
I couldn't tell you his name.
But I had heard, and this is why, like, I'm glad I didn't pick the fight that I was joking about when I sent you the thing. Tennessee Holler had put up a post that was shared by my good friend Brian, who I get along with so well on so many topics. Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota was basically announcing that Rep. Hortman and her husband had been killed by this guy, and Hoffman and his wife are still alive but got shot. I heard, at least, from one and I want to say it was Breaking Point's related, which is one of the I'd heard from one of my more trustworthy places that the shooter was a Democrat, was a left leaning guy.
Yeah.
And so when the Holler had posted this and Brian Canelio had basically kind of put this on the right, I had gotten all geared up to start a Facebook argument, and I kind of paused myself because it's like, I don't know. I still don't know. And for Breaking Point's sake, Breaking Points has been all Iran news. It's been all the Iran situation. And so I haven't heard any more on...
Well, there was a story of, I think it was Mike Lee, it was a senator or congressman, that put out some kind of post that it's gotten a whole bunch of pushback, or a hell of a lot of pushback on it, at least from the Democrats, where I think he said this is what you get when socialist or something, which I could see as people trying to allude to this person was more left-leaning, that this is what happens.
Well, I mean, the Breaking Points part that I did, or whatever the source that I saw it on was, that kind of resonated was I could see the rationale. You betrayed me because you voted for X, or you betrayed us because this was something you promised and you didn't do.
Yeah.
I don't know. I could get that logic. And I guess, to me, one of the things from this particular story that I think is a relatively reasonable takeaway is I was watching Meet the Press on Sunday, and they were talking about it. Amy Klobuchar was on there. Former governor? Former senator?
I think she's still current senator.
Okay. So Amy Klobuchar was on there talking about it, and it's it's ridiculous that these people should be afraid of their constituents. It's I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they should be.
No, I don't think so.
I mean, again, I'm not trying to condone violence.
Not in that kind of aspect.
I'm not trying to condone violence and saying that
afraid to get voted out, absolutely. Not afraid of literal political violence.
But in this day and age with gerrymandering and all that kind of shit, that's not a fair argument to play anymore. You're not going to are you going to win a primary?
And I guess in quote unquote safe districts, you probably wouldn't have to worry about it as much. But I mean, there are still a good number of districts out there that easily can change.
Are these those? I don't know. I honestly don't know. Are these those? Are these safe districts or are these swing districts?
Couldn't tell you.
I doubt. I would say. Minneapolis, St. Paul districts are probably pretty safe districts. It's okay, well, fine. Then we have a primary challenger that doesn't have a shot in fucking hell. I don't know, that. I don't condone violence. I don't encourage violence. I don't want people to think that violence is the right way to get through it. But God damn it, at some point, it makes fucking sense. It really fucking does. And maybe it's not unfair to say, maybe that's something you consider if you're gonna take this challenge on. If you want to take the challenge of being a state senator for the state of Minnesota, maybe there should be part of you that says my physical safety matters, and some of the decisions I make might put my physical safety in jeopardy. Might be important for me to think about, because maybe the fact that I'm in a safe district and I won a primary doesn't mean that I can do whatever the fuck I want to do. Maybe that's not a bad thing.
I mean, I like to think there's not that many politicians out there that just do whatever the fuck they want to do, vote however they want to vote.
I would like to think so too.
I think a lot of their votes are probably, playing more to their donors, etc. And some of their base.
Right, some of their base. But that's just it. It's that's the problem. Is that who are they answering to? And it's if you're not going to answer to me, and I am your constituent, how do I get your fucking attention? How do I make it important to you? How do I make it matter to you?
Not by threatening them.
I don't like it, but I have a hard time saying yes to that. I don't want to say yes to that. I don't want to say that physical threats are okay. That's not what I'm trying to say here. But for fuck's sake, people, like, if you refuse to answer to us, how do we get you to listen?
You reason with someone. You don't win an argument by making someone afraid of what you may do if you don't agree with someone.
But when you ignore, and when we do our polling, and when we do our things, and when we present you with the facts and the evidence, and you continue to ignore...
You have to remember that your point of view is not necessarily being ignored, that there are a multitude of opinions on any kind of legislation that's going through, that you're not always going to get your way.
I agree with
that. Be
a
fucking adult and realize, and if you have an issue with it, go and talk to them about it. Maybe they haven't seen or heard that point of view on a particular subject.
Or maybe they refuse to see that point of view on a particular subject.
But to just threaten someone over it, sure as hell not how you get your way. I mean, maybe in a dark alley, that may be how you get your way, but where the world works, that's not how you get what you really want out of life. That should never be an answer to trying to get what you desire.
I agree. I do. I 100% agree. I really do. But with the way with the way politics works anymore, I don't know that you're not going to keep your seat argument has particular validity anymore. And so how do you put the ante where it needs to be? Maybe I am. Fuck. All right. Anyway, that's getting weird. I need to stop right now before I say something might get me in jail. That button. Oh, I am sauced and tired. This is perfect.
Let's see here. There was a funny one. I don't think it's actually in like the quote unquote news of the week. It was about. I think it was earlier this week. They had. It was like water gun protests in some like Spanish resort towns and major cities, where apparently a lot of the reports were that the tourists and whatnot like kind of took it in hand and kind of like laughed it off, but they were literally getting like squirted by locals because the locals are tired of their lack of housing, to where they're seeing more and more apartments in like resort towns and major cities being bought up to be used for like Airbnbs and whatnot, and with the added traffic. I think I saw earlier, like the Louvre, La Louvre in Paris. I think they went on like a strike for a day or two because I didn't realize it's like the most visited museum in the world.
No, I would acknowledge that's probably true.
Yeah. So that's why apparently some of the Spaniards showed up to literally squirt tourists with water guns. Apparently it was so hot that I think there was an American couple that was like, actually, wait a minute, the
shoot me in the mouth.
It was hot as
shoot it in my face. Hell. Shoot me in the face.
Yeah. I thought that's a good way to protest. Less violence, more just kind of like being annoying. It's like, hey, come right here. We appreciate you bringing your money here, but this is getting excessive, and it's literally like changing our way of life.
It's the same thing that we started. This episode on. It's right. The same local shit. It's like there's a line somewhere, and I just don't know how you legislate it. Like, I don't know how you make that law of the land. I don't know how you make that a policy thing. So, but yeah, shooting people with water guns, that's fun. One more. I cannot believe I'm still awake. Here. Yeah, this rum is hitting me hard right now.
Got 15 sets of twins graduating from a New York high school.
15 sets of twins?
Yeah.
So they're independently 15 different moms to 30 different kids.
Yeah. Among the nearly 500 students in its graduating class, 30 are twins.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Where?
Let's see here. Suburbs of New York City.
Somebody needs to check that water supply. There's some fucking fertility drugs floating crazy in that bitch.
Yeah, it's all genetics.
It's not all genetics.
Yeah, it's hereditary.
The proclivity,
you're more like
to making twins is hereditary. All right, if you say so. I don't know.
I'm like 98% certain that it's...
I think you're 90%. I believe you. I trust you when you speak, for the most part.
For the most part.
Yeah, I mean, there's shit that pisses me off when you talk
Ditto.
about it. That's why I would drive to Atlanta right now, drunk as shit, to pick you up from the airport if you need a lift.
I wouldn't let you pick
I'm
me up in that state.
I'm saying I would...
in that state, out of state.
I can't think of a better way to end an episode than bad jokes, people. You're welcome, everybody. Thanks for listening. We are a podcast... what's the name of the show? Almost Agreement. Almost Agreement at gmail.com. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Do what we do. Like, friend, share, follow. Good night, everybody. I'm done. Bye. Our theme music could be a great example for that copyright conversation earlier. And there's the 808 beat is another one. Okay, good night, everybody. Thank you.